A new reading has recorded a stark difference in South Africa's unemployment numbers compared to the official data from StatsSA. According to the first quarter reading in PNet's job market trends report, it shows that a slight decline of a 0.2 percentage point that's been picked up. Data from StatsSA, on the other hand, saw the official unemployment rate retreat in every quarter of 2022 to reach 35.6%. Head of Data Insights at PNet, Paul Byrne, joins us now for this conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Paul. What is this reading telling us with regards to what we get from the report that is released by StatsSA? Where's the difference?
I think what we're seeing, if I start by just looking at the positive side of despite the economic sort of headwinds that we're facing at the moment, our report is showing that in the first quarter of this year, our hiring activity in South Africa has been 3.8% up on the last quarter of last year. And actually quite significantly, it's also up 1.5% on the same time last year. So in other words, the first quarter of last year. To answer your question specifically, I think what we're actually seeing is a slight lag in terms of the numbers, because if I take our data and I look back to the third quarter of last year, we actually had a really high hiring activities result come through. That then probably would have caused the opportunity for us then to have the change in the unemployment rate. So in other words, higher activity and hiring from the third quarter of last year translated into sort of the decrease in the unemployment rate in the fourth quarter of last year. If I look at what's actually driving those numbers, it's your roles in sort of business and management as admin, office and support roles. It's your finance, your sales and your IT roles that are driving that at the moment.
Yeah. There's also the seasonality element of the third and fourth quarters with regards to how jobs are absorbed during that time, which would be completely different from the first and second quarter.
Yes, when we look at our data, we actually take that seasonality into consideration so we can do like-for-like comparisons across each quarter. We've kind of smoothed out those numbers in terms of the report that we produce now. So I think the most important message is that going into the beginning of this year, we're seeing that 3.8% increase. And I think just sort of referencing the data from the last part of last quarter, why that's so important is as much as we saw that high peak in the third quarter of last year, that fourth quarter of last year actually saw an 11% decrease in hiring activity. So that was a concern for us, but very positive that we've actually seen that tick up again during the first quarter of this year. It's going to be important for us to obviously track what happens now through the second quarter and to understand how much of a lead indicator that's going to be in terms of the question about unemployment and the impact that this hiring activity is actually having on unemployment in South Africa.
Given the recent readings, then what's the near-term outlook? Because unemployment is one of the major historical concerns of the South African economy.
It is. Now, we've also got to make sure that we separate those numbers, because unemployment and sort of the skills shortage are two different factors that we're dealing with here in South Africa. So as much as we've actually got this high unemployment rate, one of the big issues that we've got is there are a whole lot of sort of highly technical skills that we are just not able to fill in South Africa at the moment. So we're facing, like the rest of the world is, a major shortage in some of the key skills that we need to be able to fill. And this is going to become particularly important as we move further into what we're commonly terming the fourth industrial revolution, where we need more and more of the technical and the IT skills that need to come to the fore. There's a lot of work that needs to happen in South Africa to try and rectify that and make sure that we're training our youth for the positions that are going to be coming available as soon as the next sort of 3 to 5 years, as we really entrench ourselves into this new world of work that we're moving into.
Important that you raise that, because jobs of the future is the buzz term, but South Africa is also lagging in terms of upskilling. Where is it that the bolts and nuts really need to be tightened?
I think the specific answer to that question is that we need to be looking really at our primary and secondary education. My biggest concern is that we're not actually getting the right math, science, technical engineering type skills sort of built at that core foundation stage of education at the moment. And data that I was reading that probably refers back to about 6 years now, so it would have been around about 2017, is indicating that as much as 79% of our grade 4 4 learners are not able to read for meaning at the moment. And for me, that is a major, major problem, because if we lose that ability, that opportunity for us to then to train people into some of these more technical skills that we're going to need for this future world of work is going to become just that much more difficult. So the nuts and bolts that need to be tightened is making sure that we are focusing on those STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics type skills, and building the foundation from which our youth of the future and our youth can actually start building and growing their education around that.
Lastly, Paul, what is the concern, and how much of an extent is it in terms of a risk when it comes to load shedding and jobs in this country?
Well, I think it's a major problem if we just look at the impact that it is having on just the general economy in terms of small businesses to operate. At the moment, we know that small businesses probably employ in the region of about 26 to 27% of our population, and yet there's such a big opportunity for us to grow that, because if we look at sort of the European trends, small businesses actually employ upwards of 65, perhaps even as much as 69% of the working population. So we've got a lot of work to do in terms of actually creating the opportunity for that growth. And yet with load shedding, obviously every time the power goes off, it's just putting more pressure on the development of that side of our economy.
Thank you so much for your insights. That is Paul Byrne from PNet talking to us about that organization's report on jobs.